This now opens us up to the weekly speakers spot. So every week at Business of Breakfast International, one of our members gets to enlighten the group a little bit more about what it is that they do. I've known Charles for a while, so I've got wonderful Charles Barnard in today. Charles and I have been networking together for quite a while. I feel like, were we face to face? Were you in the original face to face group, or did you just sort of rock in during COVID times? Were you in Canberra?
It was no during COVID times. I've got a daughter-in-law in Canberra, ex-daughter-in-law in Canberra, and I had a visit there. But it was really during COVID times that we caught up.
Yeah,
Right at the beginning,
okay, all right. I
early
just
COVID.
I feel like we've been around forever,
Hmm.
like we've been together
Yeah.
forever, that I've thought, if
Yeah.
you're in Sydney, actually, did you ever live in Canberra? Were you ever at the face to face? Maybe it's just in the last 5 years, but
Mm.
I feel like you've been there since the beginning of
Oh,
time. So
much
that's
better.
kind of cool. Um,
The
and you
hairstyle
know,
adds to that.
Charles is one of those people that, like Charles and I, we probably catch up like once or twice a year. Hey, you still alive? Yes, so am I. Okay. But it feels like we've been together like forever. Don't know what happened to you
Yeah.
there, Charles, but you'll come
Mm.
back in as I don't know how you become unspotlighted. That's right.
Okay.
All right. So Charles wrote a book, right? He's a business coach, but he wrote a book called Forged, or he's written a book called Forged. And he called me up and he said, need you to read it. I want you to write the forward to it. So excited. I've never been asked to do something like this before. It's very cool. I actually had to learn something about forwards. It's 4 words. So it's not 4 words. It's the bit before the book starts. Simon had to say that to me. I thought it was forward, Forward. It's Foreword, and it's the words that come before the book. So that was really interesting, me learning about that. But in order to write the forward, I had to read the book first. And I have to say, a real page turner. It was so, for business stuff, really easy to read. He's put all the business stuff back through a story of a family, and I absolutely love it. So here's what I want you to do, Charles. Whatever it is that you had planned, I'm probably going to muck that up. I just want you to give us an elevator pitch saying that you've written a book. I want you to tell us how much it costs, and then I want you to tell us a very fast history as to how this book came about. And then stop talking because we'll have questions for you.
All right, sure. So the book costs 25 US dollars, and it will be available on Amazon and later. And initially, I'll be selling it directly. So why did I write it? Well, it's a little bit about my own story. When I was a kid, my folks had a business. It tanked. I actually remember a period where we were pretty much homeless and we were living in a borrowed car for a couple of weeks. I was about 11 years old. It was the middle of winter in Johannesburg. And for those who ever knows Johannesburg, it's about 1,700 meters up. Winters get pretty chilly, even though it's quite far south. -4, -5, pretty cool, pretty Celsius, or pretty typical overnight. So that was one aspect of it. And then, yeah, my dad wasn't a bad man, but it also led to the marriage being never great again. Let's put it that way. So we suffered as a family because of that business challenge. Then later on, I'd made money. I'd gone to uni, done a whole range of things, bought a business, came into Australia and used the money that I bought up to buy into this business. Great business, wrong business partner. He took me for a ride, lost everything again, and I just realized that there was a whole load more. So I went on a journey of self-discovery myself, but it also led me into business coaching and recognizing that the concept of entrepreneurial poverty is actually quite big. And I've got a mission where I want to help in any way 10,000 business owner families avoid entrepreneurial poverty. And it's led me to focusing on turnaround and how to help business owners in crisis. And that's what I do. So formally, I've got a whole range of qualifications, from an engineering degree, the MBA many years ago, and then more recently, a Master of Business Coaching. All of those the Master of Business Coaching was because, hey, physician, heal thyself. I had to learn why I had actually made the mistakes. And then that led to me saying, I actually have to share my knowledge in the best way that I can. And I thought that what I can do is I can actually write a story, a novel, that is based on my own case studies of turnaround and combine them into a book as a story. And it's got the usual villain. There's a bank manager that is out for revenge. The Australian Tax Office is calling in a capital gains debt. And an interesting fact in Australia right now, the majority of insolvencies are being driven by the Australian Tax Office right now. So it's actually fairly relevant. And it deals with the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis. And that's where the book comes from. So that's the story behind the story of Forged.
Excellent. Thank you, Charles. Just quick show of hands. Has anyone read the book E-Myth? E-Myth? Yeah. So it's a story of a woman who enjoys baking pies. She was taught how to bake pies by her aunt. And the E-Myth actually stands for entrepreneurial myth, where just because you enjoy something and somebody says to you, hey, you should do that for a living, doesn't mean that you should start a business doing that. And so it becomes a story of this woman who loved baking pies. A friend had said, you should quit your job and do this for a living, open up a bakery. And then all the work that comes with being in charge of yourself. And what they do in the E-Myth is they tell you the story and then they feed the business stuff through it. The coach then says, you know, you have to fix this part and this part. So it's kind of like a chapter of story and then a chapter of coaching and a chapter of story and a chapter of coaching. It's fascinating and it's good and it's complicated and it's over 200 pages or 300 pages with very tiny writing. Like I said, fascinating, long to read. Charles is about 138 pages of easy to read, and the coaching is through the story. So it's never a separate chapter to chapter. And so it did remind me of that, of the E-Myth, but so easy to read and quite the page turner because you want to know what's going on with the family. And as a result, you get kind of like how I do here, you get force-fed all this business stuff without feeling overwhelmed in the business process of it. It's very good in regards to systems. Matt, you have your hand up.
Yeah.
We're not at the question part, are we? Yeah.
You can, yeah, we are. I was just adding a comment.
I wanted to know if we're at that portion.
We are in the question part. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you. I have two questions. My first one is, how does a guy end up in Australia from Joburg? What is the...
Yeah, it's been a long journey. It went via the Middle East. I started in Coca-Cola, went to Coca-Cola Saudi Arabia, was there for 4 years, went to Coca-Cola Bahrain, and in Bahrain, my territory was Algeria to Pakistan. And then the Second Gulf War happened, got retrenched. From Coca-Cola, a lot of American companies retrenched a lot of people at that stage in the Middle East. And,
sorry, what does that mean?
Made redundant.
Like fire
sacked.
you or lay off? Or...
No, lay off. Yeah, sacked but with money. Sacked with the payout.
Laid off. Yeah, laid off.
Oh, like a severance.
Got rid of.
Yeah,
severance. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great to actually segue because there's a lot of language that we don't understand from other people. So anyway, then I changed sides and I went to work for Pepsi in Khartoum as a general manager, and that's an interesting story for a different time. But I actually had to they grab your passports in countries like that, and I actually had to break into my boss's office in the middle of the night, steal my passport, hightail it to an airport to escape to Egypt. So that's a different story. But anyway, that's also part of the background. Then I started doing a lot of coaching across sub-Saharan Africa. And but then I also saw what was happening in South Africa, and I realized that for me, South Africa was not going to be a sustainable future for our children. And followed the path of immigrating to Australia. But the only way that I could immigrate was because I was older than the skills cutoff for migration to Australia, was to buy into a business. And I bought into this business, thought I'd done my due diligence. I did on the business, but not on the business owner. And that was the story that came behind it. So all sorts of court cases, all sorts of self-inspection, inspecting my navel to understand where I was from, and all those sorts of things that lead to the life that we are now. And yeah, that's it. So that's how a guy from Joburg winds up in Sydney.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Forged is based on your life and your experiences along this journey that you're talking about, going from Joburg, working for Coke, stopping in the Middle East, then realizing there was nothing in Joburg, going to Australia, and then buying into a business. So please explain if you can.
Okay, so Forged is based just on business case studies. So it's a series of case studies that I've done in Australia. And in even when I was working for Coca-Cola in the Middle East, my focus was on business turnaround. So, and even when I was in Khartoum, it was business turnaround. When I got back, it's always been around how to grow a business. And then when I got through to this particular book, I need a vehicle that describes some of the characters that I've met. So the family involved in Forged is actually a father, an immigrant father who would have come out from Croatia, as it turns out. And that's where the area that I've chosen. He started a business in Australia, and this is very typical of the people that I work with. He had 3 children. Now he himself knew how to run a business, but he doesn't teach his children how to run the business properly. He just absorbs them into the family, and then he disappears, and then the children have to run a business and they don't know how. And very often that's when a business goes down. And a lot of my clients are in that space. So what I've done is I've pulled specific aspects of when I worked with a client into the one family. It's real. It's a real business that I was thinking of, but then I've added in some other elements, and for example, the villain in my book is a banker called Roman Dominici. He's actually modeled on a banker that I had to deal with, unfortunately. There's a tax debt which is modeled on another business that I had, and they had a similar issue. And I've combined them into one story because that actually made sense for me to actually cover it as a mechanism of teaching a lot of the tools that I use. So, for example, I use a tool called Power of One, which is what is a 1% change in 7 key levers in the business. Why do I use it? Because that's a really good way of identifying how to grow a business. One of the family members in the book is on the spectrum, and he's a high functioning Asperger's. I've got several clients that I deal with that are on the spectrum in that context, and might actually be drawn to them because who knows, I might be on that part of the spectrum too, because I know I see a lot of their characteristics in me. Perhaps I'm not as evidenced as they are, but I certainly see a lot of similarities. So I get drawn to clients like that, and I work with those sorts of clients quite extensively. And that's one of the characters in the book that I deal with. Now, I don't build him out a lot because I'm trying to. If I did, I'd probably, in my own mind, highlight who the specific person is, and other people might be able to identify him. I don't want that. So I haven't built him out, but he is central in terms of, for me, as to also why I write the book. Okay.
Thank you.
So from my perspective, as someone who read it, really, it's a book about the systems. It really is, but it's done in such a way that it's a story of a family. I didn't get the Asperger's person in there. I have to go back and reread it anyway. But in regards to doing the forward, but I didn't get that one. I'm going to find it. Don't tell me which one it is, Charles,
Yeah, okay.
because I didn't get that one.
Yeah.
Because I've been reading on different personalities, so I was reading all the different personalities. But I didn't get it because it was about the systems.
Yeah.
Even when you say in regards to the banker, like bankers are whatever it is that they are, is I just took it as actually business is hard, and there's these aspects that are external to your thoughts of what you are building, and you have to get around not so much everyone else's negative thoughts, although that's what you do have to get around, is just the fact is that outside of your thoughts and goals and dreams and plans is everybody else who doesn't understand, but then also has a list of rules that they have to comply to as well. So our business will be reliant on external rules as well. I didn't see the banker as, yes, he was not great. However, if I was to look from the nice aspect of, he was a bit of a tool, but at the same time, he did have rules that he had to follow, almost like as if you'd gone in and fixed the bank first with your systems, and then given the same systems back to the family who had to fix theirs as well. So, but ultimately it was a very palatable way, I thought, of discovering systems that we don't necessarily know. We don't know are missing, but we don't know we need them. We don't know. It's one of those problems that you solve of, I don't know what I don't know, and I don't have a question to ask because I literally don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
And then your book solves what we don't know. As well, I think
Perfect
it's great.
example. Yeah, perfect example is that I give you a couple of frameworks. So there's a concept called mover. When a bank looks at you, they look at the management team. That's an investment. They look at the management team. They look at the objective for actually what they can get out of the business. They look at an exit strategy. They look at remuneration. They look at valuation. So that would be an investor. A banker looks at it from what a framework called parser. They look at the person, which is again the management team. They look at the amount that the bank needs to lend you. They look at remuneration. Can you actually pay them back? They look at the serviceability. Do you have the assets and the security around that to service it? Expediency. Is the bank actually in that area? And then they look at the rewards that are likely to come out of it. So there are a couple of frameworks that I actually put forward in the story that most people may not come about, but I've had to find them from through the way that I've gone about it. And that's where some of the other teachings come in, but I weave them into the story.
Yeah, it's woven really well. The story is of a family and a bigger business to just sole traders and entrepreneurs, but I could still read it in terms of what are the bits that I need. I know that there was some sections in it, like when you use those particular words, the passer and all those other things. As I'm reading it, the story is so readable that as I'm reading it, they're going, I'm pretty sure he must have told me what that was, what those initials stand for. But, and I was expecting to get to the end and then write to Charles and go, okay, you really need to put like a glossary in to tell me what these words are. But I got to the end and then it said, these are what these sections are and this is what it means and this is what it is. And I've gone, oh, that's cool. But I was just so engrossed in the story that I thought, I'm not going to ask questions. I'll just get through it and then I'll see the part that's missing. I was expecting to see something missing, and there really isn't. There's the information on all of it is right there. So it's, how they say with business books and sales books that you should read the whole thing first. Just read it and then go back and read and do. It was easy to read, to decide to read, and then go back and read, think, to do as well. So yeah, that's what I like about it.
I had one friend of mine who I was at uni with, and he's in the UK and I'm here, and I sent it through to him, and he said that he was giggling in the first chapter, so because you could imagine exactly what it was. So yeah, um,
Yeah.
that feedback on that.
Yeah. I like it. He also says like it's about some kids who were, by kids, you know, like they're older, they're in their 30s or 40s maybe, who dad had created the business. And it was great underneath dad's leadership and everything, but dad gets older and, you know, stuff happens, and the kids inherited it, and they didn't necessarily want to get rid of it, but they didn't necessarily know what they were doing, or I got that they didn't entirely want it, but they didn't not want it either. But so they'd inherited it with any problem that's in there now, and now they have to deal with it, and they can't really see the forest for the trees, you know, like and it is a way of how to look at our own stuff. Where are our stalls in that? So thank you so much, Charles.
Thank
Love
you.
it. There was some questions into the chat box in regards to how much was it. I believe you said something like 25 US, which is approximately $40 Australian. I wrote hashtag forged into the chat box if you want one of the first editions. It's about to go to print, isn't it? I mean, I've got to put my little bit in, but it's very close to print, isn't it?
Yeah, just doing some final elements and getting the final pieces in, such as the forward,
Yep.
and then it's ready for.
Don't blame the whole thing on me, but it's probably
No,
me.
I've had the same thing. So other feedback is that as we've written it, somebody would have said to me, "Hey, you mentioned a diagram. Why don't you add an example of a diagram?" So I've gone and been using
Oh,
how
a
to
couple
put
of
little diagrams in.
okay,
Uh,
nice. A few
so
illustrations.
yeah, a few key illustrations and stuff to make it a little bit more readable.
Nice. So Charles is in that process of doing pre-sales at the moment. So pre-sales, you get to write hashtag forged to
Yeah.
be to get one of the first editions. Such a good read. And it's one of those ones that you'll have sit next to you where you think, I think I can flip back and find that. It's a bit like Kathy's book, particularly, and I say it all the time, this one of Kathy's book, and I'm lucky because I got one of the hard copies, page 57. You will go back to that page every single day, so you need to keep that one like right here. The rest of it is good too, but I have to say page 57 is the absolute killer in that, particularly if you're a network marketer. But network marketing is the same as an entrepreneur, except that somebody else invented the product that you sell. So, you know, say the same thing there. So yeah, Charles's book is one of those that will just be on the desk as well. And just to let you all know, I have the very first of the first. So I've got the first invoice out. I get the first of the first, but you still are of the first edition.
Yes.
For the rest of my life, I can say
copy.
I own the very first copy. I did the same with Jennifer Fiedler as well. I own the very first copy. That's cool. All right then, Matt, you've got your hand up.
I hope you'll sign it for Misty and actually personalize it, right?
Absolutely.
Number
So
one of one.
Yeah, anybody who buys it now will get a signed copy and personalized to that. But Misty, as being number
one of
one,
one.
that special one. Yep.
And I've written the forward, guys. So you know, I've written the forward. So so you sure have a copy anyway. I've written forward, so that's very exciting as well. To be that famous, to get to do that, that's very cool.